The offensive line has been a trouble spot for FSU in recent times. As of now, the rebuilding process seems to be in full swing, both by bringing in talented recruits and transfers. But the question still remains if they're going to be a liability for this team in this upcoming season. Here to discuss what to expect from this motley crew is the offensive line expert himself, Coach Adam Brown, and our host from the Triple Option series of videos, Trey Rowland.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Triple Option, and God have mercy on all your souls. We're talking about Florida State's offensive line, the best for last. We've saved it.
Woo-hoo!
Now, before we get into Adam, is just beaming with excitement.
I am fired up.
Oh my God! Look at the sheen off that beautiful dome piece of his. He is on fire. I'm on fire.
Line.
You're on fire. Go to the X's and Knowles YouTube page, subscribe, put the notification on. Defense is coming next, and you don't want to miss a video. Look at Kevin. Ever since those Patreon donations have come in, doesn't he look much more full in the face, more happy, more healthy, less malnourished? Keep giving him your money. He needs it. He deserves it. Guys, let's talk about the offensive line. Kevin. Mike Norvell is what they like to call like a run game guru. What does he do with his offensive line? Him and the wizard Alex Atkins. What do they like to do with the offensive line?
So one thing you'll notice about pretty much all of the offensive line that they're bringing in is frame and feet, and I'll talk about those two things as we go along kind of these positions. But so your tackles, the guys on the outside here, for those unaware. The tackles tend to be longer guys. They're going to be more out in space. So if you imagine kind of an end rusher has all of this space to kind of operate, these longer tackles have to be able to operate out there. So they're going to have longer arms, longer legs. They're generally going to be the taller guys. The guys on the inside here are more your people movers. So there's less space for them to operate. So you can afford to have like a thicker body, a stronger legged guy that's going to get more drive moving forward. But what's really important for Mike Norvell and his offense and the kind of things he runs is he's going to pull these guards a lot. So he's going to trust them to move, and even when they're not pulling, they're going to run outside zones, which basically means that they're racing the guy. So if this is center, if we're running outside zone to the right, this center's man is this tackle. He's got to race his tackle to the outside. And so these guys have to have good feet. They have to be agile, especially the guards and centers. The tackles, you can get away with being less quick, but you still want good feet to be able to keep their balance and be able to parry these edge rushers.
And we're going to pull tackles and guards, whether it's a running play or whether it's even a play action passing play. The whole point is to try to get those linebackers to trigger and get them out of position. So you're going to see pulling linemen no matter what the actual play call is. So Adam, but we're going to run through what our projected starting five is. And now, of course, this is a projection. This is not set in stone. This is who we would select and who I think we believe is going to be the starting five lining up against Notre Dame. It's an interesting group last year. It was a group that was still one of the worst on the team. However, it was also one of the most improved groups in 2020, which was interesting, particularly in the run game. In the pass game, we were still getting abused quite a bit, which
Still
is
abysmal.
Which is, yeah. I mean, young, true freshman tackles and things like that. Yeah. So we'll see. But we'll run through the starting five. At left tackle, we have Devonte Love Taylor, backed up by Darius Washington. And a newer name on the depth chart, Lloyd Willis, the developmental prospect from South Florida.
Yeah, Lloyd Willis, a player they actually really like a lot, and could be a player who finds his way moving up the board as fall camp goes along here. I've got Devonte Love Taylor. I know some people are projecting Darius Washington to start out there. I think Love Taylor is a player who's talked about he's really only spoken with the staff about playing tackle. He was your starter at left tackle last year. Yes, maybe out of need, but I think he showed himself to be your best tackle prospect on your offensive line. Get him back out there. Get that position shored up, because it's a position that has been a major issue for years now, and I'm talking years. So get him back out there. Let him shore that position up. Be solid at that left tackle position on Mackenzie Milton's blind side. Mackenzie's already, right? Yeah, I think so. Get that blind side shored up. Make sure he feels comfortable back there in the pocket. And then Darius Washington, who's a player who you can get some reps, continue to get him kind of up to speed as he's still a younger player looking to gain experience.
Right. A guy in Darius Washington, a dude that showed a lot of potential and dealt with a pretty debilitating kind of upper body injury last year, which is tough, to recover from when you didn't have the right kind of strength and conditioning program.
And not a player who's necessarily a true offensive tackle himself. Doesn't necessarily possess that length that you love at offensive tackle. So,
right.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with that. Adam, I don't think we didn't get the type of person in the transfer portal, or somebody hasn't stepped up to where we have the luxury to kick a Devonte Taylor inside. Left guard, who do we got as our starter for left guard? We got Dante the Pope Lucas, everybody's favorite, backed up by Devonte Taylor and Dillon Gibbons. I think we'll talk about Dillon Gibbons a little bit later on the depth chart. But as you see, this is going to be a common theme. The starting five I think is going to be better than last year, but your starting left tackle is also your first reserve left guard. It's not a deep unit yet, but let's talk about Dante Lucas.
Yeah, Dante's going into his third year at Florida State. He's a player that's got to prove he can be more consistent. He's probably the most talented player on that front, in my opinion, or maybe has the highest ceiling. But he's got to prove that you can rely on him. He's got to prove he's not going to take that 15-yard penalty. I know there was a lot of hoopla about whether he was going to be around or not, whether they were going to kind of ask him to leave maybe this off season. He's here. I've seen pictures of him, Trey. I'm sure you've probably seen him too this summer. He looks in some of the best physical shape that he's been in. Has transformed his upper body. He's a young man who hasn't had the opportunity to really thrive in the weight room and seems to have taken advantage of that opportunity this offseason. I'm hoping that he takes that next step, and we're going to see. For right now, I don't just talent alone. I think you've got to kind of throw him in there and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It'll be interesting to see how he's matured in totality. That'll be fun. Let's move on to center. As a former center, you have the smartest guy on the field is at center. Let's talk about the best position, the glamour position in all of football. We've got Maury Smith there, a guy who impressed last year. We think he's the center of the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think he's the center of the future. I think he's the center for now. I think you saw Thomas Schrader, who we're not sure what his status is going to be. So you'll notice he's been left off the depth chart.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, uncertainty about an injury. Mike Norvell's not one who likes to give away a lot of information about injuries, and we're not going to speculate on what his status is. Bryson Estes is another young man coming in as a true freshman this year who looks like he's got a bright future to the center position. But for now, Maurice Smith is there. I think he possesses the agility that you're looking for out of the center position, able to reach 3 techs, 1 techs overtake. You'd like to see him be a little bit bigger and keep that agility, but it is what it is. I think he's a player who maybe would be better at the guard spot, but for right now, he's one of your more consistent snappers, a guy who's got a season under his belt, handling, calling the front and getting protection set. So that's where we're going to roll.
And I'll be honest with you, the guy backing him up to the former highly thought of prospect, Bavion Johnson. I think Bavion's going to be there's always talk of a swing tackle. Mm-hmm. I think Bavion Johnson is your swing interior guy. I think either he's going to be competing for a starting position, not what probably some Florida State fans want to hear. That's just where we're at on the state of the interior of the line. But he's going to be the first guy off the bench, I think, in case there's an injury. And he's a guy who's got experience.
You're talking about
inconsistent experience, but at center, he's got experience there.
You're talking about a super senior. He's a guy who's had trouble snapping the ball, but I think he gives you consistency. It may not always be great, but I think you can count on him play and play out to be there and give you something. So
right guard. Oh, go ahead, Cap.
I think Bavion is probably has been dealt the worst hand possible when it comes to systems and how many offensive line coaches he's had to shuffle through. And so I think he's someone that potentially you can see a decent jump with, even though it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. The fact that he's had a second year with an offensive line coach, he might be a different guy this year.
Yeah.
That is very fair. I'm good with that. Right guard, the newcomer from Notre Dame, Dillon Gibbons. We're going to actually take a look at his film afterward. We're going to look at, with offensive line, we feel it's more beneficial to kind of look at group highlights. So we're going to look at some group highlights, and we're going to get to Dillon Gibbons specifically during those. So I say we'll wait on the Dillon Gibbons kind of analysis, Adam, when we look at his film. But we project the transfer in from Notre Dame to be the starter at right guard. with Bavion Johnson there. And then Brady Scott, who's somebody that another candidate for that swing interior kind of guy.
Yep, another super senior.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go to. You want to move over to right tackle, or do you guys have anything else to say about the interior?
There's enough said about those guys.
Right tackle, no surprise to me, and I know that there's been some people that want to move this kid to the interior, which maybe if you're looking at from like an NFL development, like an ideal body profile, he's an interior guy. But to me, I find to be a very solid tackle prospect. I think played really well given his age last year, and has some dope sports goggles, which always make me a fan. What do we think? Robert Scott? I think he's the unquestioned starter at one of the tackle spots. Whether him and Devonte Love-Taylor flip right or left, I think it's Scott and Love-Taylor for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Robert's a young man who showed himself last year in a situation where he didn't get an offseason in the program, was able to come in midway through the year. I wouldn't call it solidified, but step into that right tackle spot, was a freshman All-American. Those things are all whatever, but still was able to earn some recognition nationally. He's had an off season this year. I expect that position to semi be the strength of the offensive line.
Interesting, because we got behind him skinny boy Jalen Goss, maybe not as skinny as he used to be in the past.
Yeah,
talented freshman Rod Orr. What do we think of those two guys, Adam?
Goss is listed at 295 now. I've seen again another young man. We've seen some pictures kind of floating out there in the old internet, the old Twitterverse.
A rumor that he was vegan forever, which I don't know if ever was substantiated.
He looks like he's put some bulk on, some mass on him. He's not a guy you're going to want to rely on, but look, somebody's got to be the backup there. We're going to give it to him. Chaz Neal has moved on to greener pastures. Thank God that poor young man is not the.
He wasn't a Florida State caliber player. Good kid though.
He wasn't.
He played hard when he needed to.
He took a beating, and it wasn't really necessarily fair to him. So we'll see what Goss has got. I'm going to pencil him in there for right now, give him that opportunity. And then Rod Orr is the future at your tackle spots. You're hoping anyway. Big time offensive tackle prospect that they signed last year, kind of Alex Atkins. His big fish his first big fish he's been able to sign. I don't know if he'll be ready this year. You're not going to want to have to play him, but a kid that, if the opportunity does present itself, I think it would be beneficial to get him a few reps.
Yep, I want to see him on the field this year. Hopefully, not in a role of like prominence. Well, correct. That's our projected starting five. Let's roll that beautiful line footage, Kev. Let's look at some film of what the line did well and what it didn't do so well.
Ooh, here's a little one-back power. That
was well done.
Dante Lucas pulling on the backside. I mean, you see when he's focused, the talent he's got. Kev talked about the footwork and the athleticism. He possesses those quicks. He's able to pull, keep his shoulder pads square, get up.
Yeah, very athletic there. That's good. That's good, Dante Lucas. And this is a line inexplicably, obviously helped by Jordan Travis. But I would call them a good run. They were a good run blocking team last year with a terrible offensive line, which.
There's your Bavion.
There's Bavion. Nice.
He kind of misses the initial hit, but then he does a good job of pinning inside afterwards.
Yep. This is basically the group we've pretty much penciled in there outside of Gibbons. You've got Love-Taylor at left tackle, Dante at left guard, Smith at center, Bavion at right guard, and Robert Scott at right tackle.
And if the initial contact on the pull isn't going to be great, at least get in the guy's way. And Bavion did that effectively. Now, what do we think? Pass and play here. What did we think about the level of pass protection? As you can see, some movement on the offensive line to sell the play action, which it's going to still be a lot about trickery and kind of subterfuge with.
It's play action, so it plays to their strength of being able to keep those D linemen on their heels. 2nd and 8, not necessarily a passing situation. You still have the run component. So that helps them a lot. That's going to be the big question that they're going to have to answer is how do they hold up in standard passing downs and standard passing situations. Those are the times that they've struggled the most, and they're going to have to answer that bell.
Still got to think. If you find yourself a lot of 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 7s, you're dead meat. What were you going to say, Kevin?
I think this is really good pass pro. I mean, they do get a little bit of help from the play action, but I really like Love-Taylor's pull here. He does a good job keeping his feet on them. Look, everybody's engaged. There's plenty of time. The only reason this gets rolled out is because, well, Jordan Travis gets a little antsy,
right? Yeah.
Good coverage.
I'm with you guys. Since run blocking is going to be a strength of the team, anything off play action where they're kind of you're pass blocking like you're run blocking, they say, where it's not a passive pass block. There's still some forward motion instead of just like setting in your pass block set, waiting to be run by. I don't think it's a horrible pass blocking team, but I still think in 2021 you're going to need to use play action. You're going to need to use things that kind of disguise it on some straight up pass rushing against the Clemsons, the Notre Dames, the Floridas. There's still going to be some issues on the outside.
Down again here, and this should be a touchdown, but the tight end blocks the wrong guy. So
yeah, again, down is the play side guard pulling. Bavion here does a pretty adequate job, I'd say.
Yeah. He's an athletic young man.
I would say if Bavion's your backup guard, it represents a big step up in depth from what we've had previously.
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree.
It's all relative. Florida State fans know it's all relative on the offensive line. Good push there. Touchdown, Knowles. Good job. What do we got here?
So I got another drive from Notre Dame if we want to go through that too.
Absolutely. Why not?
There was some success. Okay, that's a quickly collapsing pocket, though, right, guys?
Yeah, but this is against Notre Dame.
Right.
It is, but you see some pieces. Look at your left tackle holding up well, your left guard holding up well. You've got a freshman at right tackle who you're hoping is come along a little bit.
Who is that at right tackle right now?
Robert Scott.
This is Scott. Yeah, the tackles do a great job here.
It's just the interior that gets you kind of killed.
Yeah, Bavion gets blown up here, which you're hoping for some help there. But that, again, that's Notre Dame. I mean, it's a really talented ball club. Obviously the team we're going to see first game of the season.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are we doing there, my friend? Looking at no one and also hitting no one. Those are the things we got to clean up. Still a completed pass, but not because of the pass protection, in my opinion, at least.
Here's a little run action.
Yeah,
this is
a lot of movement.
No, this is where you see some struggles. Let your left guard and center aren't doing a very good job against that down lineman. They kind of get held up at the line of scrimmage. That's where these are the things you're hoping a year in the weight room will have helped them.
This play doesn't seem right to me. It seems like he's got to be reading probably this linebacker. Everybody else is blocked because they're running into a box with two extra people here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what went on with this play call.
Misread and then not a lot of movement anyway.
They're running midline there, aren't they?
I would say so, but they blocked that defensive tackle.
Yeah, so potentially a screw up there.
Yeah.
Which happened once again as part of the offensive line preview. Things that hopefully you can clean up with another year in the program. What happened on that play from the line?
That was the old triple O.
Our namesake. Yep. I wonder if you're going to see a little bit less of. I mean, you will see a little bit less than that, a lot less of that this year because we expect McKenzie Milton to be the starter. So that's another thing that is interesting about this offensive line. The style of the offense is going to be very different. A lot less Jordan Travis to kind of bail him out. Hopefully McKenzie Milton's quick release, his ability to scan the field and get the ball out quickly will help him in the pass blocking game, but it's going to be different. The quarterback is going to need to help the offensive line out in pass pro. It's just going to be a different sort of helping than what we saw last year.
Here you see the young Robert Scott kind of get fooled and fall in front of his feet, so his weight kind of comes out. You can see right here. He kind of lunges here. That's a rookie mistake. That's something that can get fixed with film and practice.
So we got any more group highlights to look at, Kev, before we kind of get into Dillon Gibbons?
It's just the end of this drive here.
I mean, you don't want to see us score a touchdown against Notre Dame, Trey.
You know what? How dare I jump the gun? Let's punch it in on these.
With Damian Webb on the old
little pitch.
That was good. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be DJ Williams.
Counter toss.
Yeah. So good drive, even with a drive where there were some misfires, mental misfires, physical misfires, still able to be effective. Mike Norvell was able to scheme an effective at times offensive line effort from that. Hopefully we can upgrade that this year. Dillon Gibbons, let's talk about. We've got him penciled in as one of the interior starters. He's a transfer from Notre Dame. Adam, what do we like about Dillon Gibbons' game?
I think the first thing you got to like is that he's going to bring you some veteran presence up front. He's going to, he talked a lot about wanting to change the culture. I think that's a big thing for this offensive line. I think Alex Atkins has started that, but he's a player who's going to be able to come in with a Devonte Love-Taylor and kind of really help solidify what they want to be. We talked about Dante Lucas needing to grow up. This is a young man that's going to help with that. His game-wise, he's just a physical player. I mean, he's a physical guy, has adequate feet. I don't think they're great feet. I'm not going to pretend that he's some elite offensive lineman, but he's serviceable, and really isn't that what they needed? I mean, they needed a guy that they can kind of count on and rely on.
Steady hand.
Yep, they needed a guy they can plug in there and who's going to bring the floor of the offensive lineup, and I think he does that.
Yeah, I chose this clip when I was finding clips about Dillon Gibbons. We did a whole breakdown of just him before, if you want to check that out. But what I really like about this is there's a stunt, which Florida State has had trouble picking up, even the most basic stunts in the past few years. So there's this little twist stunt, and you can see he's right guard here, and he sees the stunt immediately. He picks it up, and then he anchors super well. So the defensive lineman had momentum going into him, but he was able to stop that momentum, and it's just a very solid block.
Yeah,
he's a guy that's going to make sure your communication's where it needs to be, and that's a big part of the offensive line.
Yep, that's veteran experience. That's stability. That's somebody who's been in one of the premier offensive line factories and programs in the entire country, and he's a guy that's going to be a starter, whether it's left or right guard, but he's going to be playing a lot on the offensive line. All right, boys, as we are wont to do at the end of every one of these position previews, is Florida State's offensive line a strength, a contributor, or a potential liability like it has been in the past? We're gonna go differently because, Adam, this is your time to shine. So we're gonna wait for you at the end. I'll
close
go
us
first.
out.
I'll go first as the center of the group. I'll snap the ball to you fellows. I think that they're gonna be better than they were last year. I think this is gonna be Florida State's best offensive line in quite some time. With all that being said, they are still a potential liability on the team because the depth is so atrociously thin. They are 1 to 2 catastrophic injuries away from having a severe kind of domino effect on what happens to the health of the quarterback room. So it's still a house of cards at this point. I like the starting five much better than I have the past 2 or 3 years. I don't bet on the depth. I think this could be a potential liability pretty easily, with the potential to be with the potential not to be the worst unit of the offensive group, which is high praise considering what we've seen from this unit in the past couple of years. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, this might be controversial, but I'm gonna put him in that contributor middle range.
Hot.
I think
spicy.
I think you can always be worried about the depth and whatever, but if I go through this, Darius Washington was a starter before. You have Love-Taylor and Gibbons who are both starters. Bavion was a starter before. Brady Scott was a starter before. So I think just all across the board, even though there's not the depth that you want, there's more depth than we've ever had before. And even last year when we were all healthy, without Gibbons, I thought that we had a serviceable offensive line. And adding Gibbons, having Bavion be able to step back and be kind of that all-purpose backup, also having another year under Alex Atkins, I think that the pass pro is mostly about communication. Being good at pass pro is communication is a huge part of it. And so I think you see steps up in almost all of the departments on the offensive line. And I think it's not going to win or lose us ball games when it comes down to it.
The floor is yours, big man.
This group is a strength. I mean, come on, right? This group is a strength. No reaction, Trey?
Yeah, okay, you are like...
No, I think they're still a liability. If I knew what Thomas Schrader's status was, if I knew whether he was going to play this year or not, it may sway me to go to contributor. But I think not having that true offensive tackle experience and length is still going to be a downfall for this group. I think Robert Scott's going to take another step. I think Darius Washington has the potential to be a starter out there at left tackle. But, we know that neither of them are necessarily offensive tackle prospects long term, even though they could be solid at the college level. I still think that in standard passing downs, this group's going to struggle. I don't think that there's a lot of great footwork in there. I don't think there's a lot of great feet. Then that lateral agility is important on the interior when you're talking about pass pro. Communication should be improved, but there's just still way too many question marks to really step in and say that I think that they're going to be a solid contributor. And then when you throw in the depth issues, it just seems like it's easier to be kind of pessimistic about this group still than to find yourself being optimistic. I think they're right there. I think it's a really fine line though between liability and solid contributor. Just because I do think we've got a 5-man group now who can be, I don't want to say good, but maybe just that notch right below, that notch between average and good.
Serviceable.
Whatever. Yeah, serviceable seems like a good word. So I do think we got a 5 that can live in that serviceable realm. How many snaps can we count on that, though, is the biggest question mark.
AB, have we agreed yet?
I do. I feel like it's been different every single one of these episodes, which is good. We're our own men here, and you're your own men or women out there watching us every week. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the defense, which is going to be fun because we got a whole platoon of new brosifs over there on the defense at every single level, and it's going to be fun. But the way you're going to see that first is go to the X's and Old YouTube page, subscribe, hit the Patreon, throw some money at Kevin. He deserves it, and we will check you soon for defense. As always, keep chopping.